Well, Dr. Bill, we've been having some balmy, unseasonably warm weather this fall so far. It's the first week of October, but they said the temperature's going to drop, right?
Yeah. Early this week. Maybe Sunday. Sunday, 56.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Fall is coming in. It's almost time for Dickie Duncan.
Oh. When the weather is hot and sticky, that's no time for Dunkin' Dickie.
No.
But when the frost
is on the pumpkin,
that's the time
for Dickie Duncan.
That's right, for Dickie Duncan. But plus Halloween is in the air. Oh, how's my hair?
It's on your head.
Well, I put something in it because of the thick, wiry texture. I had to control it. All right. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Progressive Discussions. Okay. We're running late again because I was up very late to the wee hours doing work last night, and I kind of got up late, but we'll be all right. Yeah, we are running late, but we'll be all right. We were running late last time because we had a guest from one of our elite executives of Newsletter Censored, Mr. Michael J. Talmo, and we were running late then, but it turns out we're running late again. But I don't know what's happening. It's balmy, but it's very windy today, and the temperature's supposed to drop tonight, I think, to the 50s. But it is October. Yes, it's what is it? Saturday, October
6, I think. 6.
It is?
Yeah. 1 month away from the big election.
Oh, that's right. October 6th, 2012. And of course, yes, we are about 1 month away from the big election. But let me formally pipe aboard my co-host and mentor the proper way and welcome him aboard our progressive pirate ship. Arr, ahoy, matey. I welcome my co-host and mentor, the Reverend Dr. William J. Eisenman. How are you feeling? How are you doing this week, sir?
I'm here, but
What's going on?
I got a lot of problems.
Uh-oh.
Bowlsy Bob has been very busy.
Beelzebub? You mean, are you trying to say Beelzebub?
Well, it's spelled B-A-A-L-Z-E-B-U-B, so I will use Bowlsy Bob.
You mean that guy that unexpectedly dropped in on us like a couple times last year?
Yeah, but he's using his influence right now. He ain't dropping in on.
No.
He's preventing the newsletter from getting out, which it should have been out in early September.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So it's about.
It's at the printer right now for the last 6 days.
What I'm saying is, since we are 1 week into October, your newsletter is technically 1 month late.
Yeah, I would say so.
That is extremely late, sir.
Absolutely late.
Extremely
Especially when there is voting information involved in it regarding November the 6th.
That's why you said Beelzebub.
That's correct.
Because Beelzebub is campaigning for the Republicans.
Correct.
Because Republicans are not true Christians like they say they are.
They use God as a front man.
They're lying.
You know, like the carnival?
The carnival. They're snake oil salesmen. They're tools of Satan in the end times.
Angels of Light.
Angels of Light. Because
that's what the new article's all about.
It's called Angels of Light,
Why do you think he's preventing it from getting out?
Because the Republicans, the conservatives, everything that comes out of their mouth is anti-God of the Bible. And the Bible, the teachings and messages in the Bible sound very similar to progressive liberals. A lot closer to progressive liberals than to conservatives, even though they might start like they usually do, call us names and say that we're lying. But the truth of the matter is, they're lying, because everything that they talk about is pro-Satan and anti-God of the Bible. So they don't know the God of the Bible. They're about hate and greed and selfishness and vanity and.
Well, Mitt Romney lied his ass off on the debate night, and
Okay.
you know.
There's something I noticed.
Geez.
I don't know if the average American numbskull noticed this, but I noticed something. I closely listened to the entire debate, and the part where Jim Lehrer asked the question of what in your opinion, he asked Obama and Romney, what is the role of the federal government, and they both said what they had to say in supposed to be 2 minutes each, but they were very long-winded. President Obama was very long-winded. Jim Lehrer had to interrupt him a few times, but because he was relaxed and talking slowly, which I thought, which went against him with the critiques, with the reviews, because they said that Romney had more energy than President Obama, and Romney was talking faster and he was excited, and Obama was
But he was lying.
But he was lying. But Obama was low key, like he is on the talk shows, which I don't understand.
How can you be?
Why he was relaxed? He should be furious with the
I
Republicans.
know why he was relaxed.
If I
He
had,
wanted to get out with his wife to celebrate their 20th anniversary that night. What's the big deal?
listen, if I had a job where I had a Republican
You want to get a little nookie.
Nookie, the fate of the nation is at stake here. If I had a job where I had a Republican-controlled Congress shooting down and voting against everything that I proposed, every plan that I had, I would be like a savage. I would be so friggin' full of venom and anger. I wouldn't wait. Listen, the first time Republican Congress shoots down my big plans, I get in front of the camera nationwide and I tell the American people exactly what the Congress did. But no, the Democrats have to get along and have to have bipartisanship, and they have to have everyone like them and approve of them.
Yeah, but the first thing out of the conservatives' mouth would be, you are a dictator. We have checks and balances in our government setup.
A dictator? What if you can
Yeah,
prove?
if you just said, well, if I didn't get what I wanted,
No,
I would go before the American people.
and I would tell the truth.
And I would tell the truth.
So why is
But that has nothing to do with
why
dictator.
is telling the truth being a dictator?
No. That's not what you said. You said,
Well, of
if I
course I'd
didn't
be
get
angry.
what I want.
No, what's
We don't get what we want in this government setup. There are 3 branches of government. Checks and balances. They check and balance each other. You have to have compromise for something to get done.
yeah, another bipartisan progressive Democrat over here,
That's
Dr.
how
Bill.
it's set up.
Listen,
Has nothing to do with that.
what's best for the American people is what's important, not what people
But
personally.
if the president proposes it, how do you get it done if the Congress does not go along?
You expose them.
That's nothing to getting it done.
No, but it lets the American people know who the culprits are.
So what? It still doesn't get the job done.
No, but it gets a lot of people against Republicans.
But what are you going to do against them when they got their 2 years to go through? What are you going to do there? They're going to sit it out for 2 years and you got to get nothing done. Bingo.
Which is kind of what Congress does anyway.
now.
Nothing.
Exactly.
And they get paid top dollar to do nothing.
Exactly.
And they go on, they take a lot of vacations.
Hey, what's this thing?
You know, it's just like what Chris Christie, I don't know. It's just what Chris Christie said. He says, well, you're stuck with me when he got elected.
Yeah, for
You're
4
stuck
years.
with me for 4 years.
And then we get rid of you.
And then, you know, we're stuck with the Congress. Now, I noticed when Jim Lehrer asked, what is your opinion of the role of the federal government? Romney said, he mentioned what the role of the federal government was. Mitch Romney, like David Letterman calls him. Mitt Romney. He said, Mitt Romney says, people in need in America, and people that are in, dire straits, which is a very large percentage of Americans.
47%.
People in need in America must be cared for by one another in this nation which is under God. What does he mean by be cared for by one another? He means go to your relative if you're poor? Go to your friends?
Like he said, if you are a person and you want to start a business, go to your relatives and get the money.
So one another means...
Or your savings.
So one another means don't come to
the government.
To the government for any help, which means if your relatives give you the Bronx cheer and
what if they don't have it?
The raspberry. What if they don't have the money?
Thank you.
So then, if you can't go to the government and you can't get help from your family,
guess what? You're
in the gutter and you live in a cardboard box and then you die, right? Basically, because they don't believe in feeding the homeless.
No.
Conservatives.
They don't believe in government. Look, here's the thing. You got to understand one thing about their philosophy. Yeah. Corporations have all the power in this country.
Well, because they're allowed to have this power.
The only bulwark against that power is government.
Oh, yeah.
They want to make government so small, to shrink it, so they can drown it in a bathtub, and no one can stand up to the corporations. No one.
FDR proved that point.
Right?
FDR proved that point. He made that.
Economic royalists. That's what he called them. Okay? That's what he called them. But that's the whole point. They don't... The Constitution is set up that the people of the United States are the sovereigns. Right. We control government. But if they can shrink the government to nothing, we have no control. They've done it now. Our democracy is a sham. One man, one vote is a sham.
Yeah,
they buy the votes. They buy.
Because people, passive Americans with no spine let it happen.
That's correct.
They buy the vote. They tampered with the Constitution like G.W. Bush did. I saw a cute banner for G.W. Bush. It says, something like, I screwed it all up, but thank you for blaming the black guy.
Well, I seen a banner on Facebook from one of my friends. He put it up there, and you see the picture of George Bush, and it says, "Do you miss me yet?" Because they're still blaming the black guy. Yeah. Now, if my numbers are correct, when George W. Bush left office, the unemployment rate was somewhere around 7.8%. What it is now.
Well, you can't expect 4 years to be enough to fix G.W. Bush's 8 years of damage.
But the Republicans have amnesia about those 8 years, you see.
Well, statistically, no incumbent president who has had unemployment at 8% or higher has ever won re-election. So they're striving.
Reagan did.
Reagan did?
Yeah, he did.
Well, then somebody ought to tell the media.
I think it was either 7.2 or 8.2.
Somebody better remind the media.
Yeah, well, their history doesn't go back too far. Because remember, when they talk about taxes, when they talk about taxes,
deep in the heart of Texas,
they forget about the years 1940, 1950, and 1960, and the 70s too. They forget about those years when the marginal tax rates were 91, 92, and 74. The high rates on the rich. Now it's 35, if indeed they always pay that amount, because they don't. Like Mr. Romney. Most of his money is the capital gains. So he pays 13 point something or 14 point something.
You know, I heard Texas has a backup generator in case one of the grids go out from the solar flares. Texas has backup.
I wonder if what the hell is his name now? I forgot his stupid name. The governor.
Governor Walker.
Well, that's Wisconsin. Texas. The dope that couldn't remember the three programs that he's going to get rid of when he's president.
Well, he didn't recall. He got brain freeze.
It was the EPA.
He got brain freeze.
Because he ain't got no brain, actually. Freeze.
You know, I'm just wondering, all these old country songwriters that wrote such wonderful songs about Texas and life as a cowboy and everything, I bet they never actually had a job as a cowboy busting his ass and getting cheap cuts of meat, the toughest part of the cow to cook in a friggin' Dutch oven for hours, you know, home on the range. I bet they never really did the job, but they used to write these songs about how wonderful life was on the open range, whatever. Anyway, they probably were talking about rich Texans that owned the ranch, that were so happy, you know, to be deep in the heart of Texas. Obviously not the average working stiff, but
well, nobody but like Woody Guthrie and Pete Seeger and this other guy escapes me right now. They're the only ones who wrote about the common man and his plight.
Oh, there's plenty of songs about the plight of the common man from country western, but it's not from those ridiculous songs of yesteryear. Yeah. You know. But anyway, it was obvious that that Romney was doing a lot of lying. I mean,
he was a chameleon. Everything he's been saying for the last year while he's running, he dissed on during the debates. So how the hell was Obama going to come against him when he changed his stripes?
Obama was the only one during the debate that brought up taxing the rich. You notice how Romney stood away from that subject?
Yeah, but he said all during the year he's saying that he's going to have a 20% across the board. Everybody's going to get a 20% tax reduction, even the rich. On the debate, he said no. He's not going to give a tax cut to the rich.
He says he's not going to raise taxes. He's not going to raise taxes on the middle class?
Yes, his focus went to the middle class. Whereas his focus all through the year he's been running has been who? The big boys. You saw the tape, the 47%.
But during the debate, he automatically focused on the middle class because he needs the votes.
Correct. Chameleon.
Do you know that there were some people that they interviewed after the debates? Well, this woman looked like she had a lot of expensive jewelry on, so it didn't surprise me. Some people actually said that Romney won the first debate.
A lot of people said it.
Why? Because
they said that Obama did not have his A game. That Obama was
A game.
Yeah.
They said, well, they like Romney's spunk and.
That's correct. His theatrics.
What about content?
He had no content. He had no substance whatsoever. That's what I'm saying.
But Americans like to be entertained.
That's correct.
Theatrics.
They like the theatrics. All that I saw was his fake smile. I thought I was looking at one of these beauty contestant contests. You know, with the fake smiles and all the girls. You know.
Yeah, the nauseating saccharine sweet
Actually,
smile.
you know what Mitt Romney reminds me of when you think about it?
Game show
If
host.
you put a headdress on him, he'd look like one of them wooden Indians outside a cigar store.
He's very phony.
With that fake smile, phony smile and face, wooden face. He's got a wooden face.
And of course, him and his wife are trying to portray themselves as being one of us.
Yeah, he drives several other cars, and she drives 2 Cadillacs.
You know, he used a lot of money for his equestrian horse.
Yes,
And it wasn't his own money?
It's a deduction at the end of the year on his taxes.
Oh boy. Oh
Okay.
boy. This is the problem with revenue in this country. The rich have not paid it.
If they pay their proper amount, it's 35% instead of 92 or 74. They've had this break for over 32 years.
Right. Now, did you hear Romney say he's not going to touch the defense budget?
Exactly.
Because we need a strong America?
The defense budget is bloated. Has lost trillions of dollars, cannot account for it. We do not need what he's saying. I got news for you. Strong defense? We're in Afghanistan, a country that is nothing as far as the world is concerned, and we're there 12 years.
Somebody's making money.
What are we doing? Trying to beat the Russians? They got out in 10.
They were smart enough to get out of there. Actually, they couldn't wait to get out of there and say, "Here, you can have it." But Romney, it sounded like he wanted to put more money into the defense budget.
Every Republican tries to do that.
And there's more
goes towards their phony patriotism.
Well, there's more
feeds into that.
There's more to the defense budget with conservatives than meets the eye. I think there's a little.
Oh yeah, because the contractors and everything are all connected. Certainly.
So he made himself quite obvious, but of course some of these numbskulls in the United States, they were probably wealthy, high-income people. He had charisma, he had spunk, he had this, he had that. You saw, because his eyes lit up and he got all excited, and he's talking frantically because he was nervous that Obama was putting him on the spot with a few issues.
Well, Obama, he reminded me of Muhammad Ali with the rope-a-dope.
He was playing rope-a-dope and trying to allow Romney to wear himself down.
But he never came out with some of the big stuff that he should have, such as the 47%. Never mentioned it. But he did.
He no venom.
He looked down at his notes many times, and he puffed his cheeks and he laughed to himself because Romney kept lying.
I don't,
how the hell do you debate with somebody who's changed his positions and lied?
If you're debating for the future of the country, you deal with you and your wife's anniversary when you're finished with the debate.
Not when you're looking for some nookie. You know yourself.
Listen, Michelle Obama knows the importance of the debates. She knows about that.
A dick has a mind of its own.
Well, we're going to get dicked if the wrong person gets elected. We're all going to get dicked.
I got news for you. The wrong person's going to get elected in the first place.
Because
Dr. Bill is not going to get the votes that he needs.
True. That is true.
Okay? However, Dr. Bill did vote yesterday.
They're allowing early voting.
I vote absentee ballot.
Oh, because you need, right, okay.
So, Dr. Bill, as of this moment, has one vote.
Well, I know Gary Noe and Jesse Ventura are definitely not crazy about the two-party system also.
No one is.
And nobody is, except the fools, the lemmings,
the fools who believe in party over country.
Well, that's Republicans,
that's
number
right.
one. Like the statements made by old turtleface bitch McConnell. That it shows that there are. Listen, Santorum, Rick Santorum, that should be in a sanitarium. Sanitarium Santorum was on the David Letterman show recently, this past week, and David Letterman was way too nice to him. He was trying to see if he was talking about gridlock in Washington, and he was trying to see if Santorum would recognize the fact that there has to be more compromise coming from both sides to make things work for the American people, the best for the American people. Santorum, who has criticized Romney, will not budge as far as compromise goes and bipartisanship. Even Santorum won't
He
budge.
can't. If he does and becomes an independent person on his own, he will lose election because they will target him. The Republicans will target him. And they will put up somebody against him, and they will give them all the money they need to get rid. They did it to Lugar. They did it to Lugar.
So you mean Lex Luger, the wrestler?
No, not Lex Luthor.
No, Luger. His name is Luger, not Luther.
It's Luthor.
Lex Luthor is Superman's nemesis. No,
Yeah.
this is the wrestler.
Well, who's
Lex Luger.
Oh, Lex Luger. The wrestling. I don't know about that wrestling.
Listen, Jabroni. In other words, what you're saying is they will put Rick Santorum on a blacklist.
Correct.
And they won't forget
No.
that he made statements on the David Letterman show. I guess this is why Mitt Romney won't go on the David
Just
Letterman.
like with Grover Norquist. The Republicans have all signed a pledge. No taxes being raised. They signed the pledge.
What about the?
So it's the same thing with the Republicans.
What about the fine print, the disclaimer? You said no taxes, no raising of taxes on. What they meant was no raising of taxes on the rich.
Correct. But they say across the board, you know, nobody.
Yeah, but you know they're going to hammer. You know they're going to hammer the middle class.
Like George W. Bush, they gave crumbs to the little guy, and the big boys got the big amounts.
That's what food stamps and welfare is really in reality. Crumbs. And they make such a big stink about it, the Republicans.
Well, here's the stink about that stuff.
With the cost of living today, it's crumbs.
They continue to say opportunity and upward mobility.
For the rich.
All of this stuff. But when it comes to social programs and stuff, they want you to remain poor.
So you work for slave wages for the corporation. This whole thing about opportunity and the land of opportunity and all this Yankee Doodle Dandy flag waving stuff, you know, they're wrapped in a flag carrying a cross. Fascism today will be, and this was quoted by a famous person that I can't remember right now, but that fascism today will be wrapped in an American flag and carrying a cross. And there's a banner of Sarah Palin. Somebody superimposed her head on someone wrapped in a flag and carrying a cross, and that's exactly what it is. But
God is a front man.
Is a front man, and you know they're going to hammer the middle class because they got to get the revenue from somebody, and it's not going to be the rich.
That's right.
It's
never was.
It's about greed in the most purest selfish form. When you think about it, if somebody's filthy rich,
it's all anti-Christian.
So a lot in taxes.
It doesn't hurt them.
Aren't they still rich?
Yes, bingo.
So why do they cry so much about it?
Because greed is a disease. You never have enough. It's in the Bible.
So
you never have enough.
So is that why
if you focus on money as your God?
So that's why Republicans always have like a stupid look on their face when the camera is on them, like turtle face bitch McConnell looks like a Muppet. Is that why they look like something's like they're constipated or something's wrong with them?
They're always hiding something because they always have to be wearing a mask. You know, the mask of, oh, I'm for you, I love you,
I love you,
I hate the sin, but I love the sinner. Like, what's that bitch in Minnesota?
Oh, Bachman?
Bachman, yeah.
Michelle
like
Bachman?
Her and her husband.
Nuts.
We don't like the sin that you do, gay people, but, you know, we love you.
Well, she said her husband can cure gay people.
Yeah, sure they can.
Did they ask to be cured? Well,
they did away with that program for the younger kids, to try to change them into normal.
You know what sickened me to my stomach? Did I forward you? Did I forward you that that soppy, nauseating thing about grandpas from conservative Uncle Phil?
Yes, that was most disgusting.
That was the soppiest
And if you saw the one thing, there was one thing at the end of the whole thing, which was totally, he had the date wrong. He had Obama going into office in 2007. He was trying to tie everything up with when the Democrats took the Senate and the House in 2006. He was trying to make believe that Obama was in there at that time. Obama didn't get office till 2008. Janvier 2008.
Right.
Okay? Figure it out. Janvier 2008, Janvier 2009, Janvier 2010, 2011, and then the next guy comes in 2013. It's 4 years.
You're
right?
saying January for you bubbleheaded
non-French speaking people?
Yeah, non-French speaking people. Especially you people from the red states wouldn't know what Janvier meant. Yeah, but
they would know about gator hunting, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like oh man, well, but what was he trying to say? Now Grandpa was trying to say something like to his kid, his grandchild, that
the grandpa didn't want to pay. The kid voted Democratic.
And Grandpa gave her a hard time.
And Grandpa was Republican. And they used to bitch back and forth and blah, blah, blah. So the kid was doing well. She had a car, she had this, she had an apartment, she's shopping, boom, ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum. And then she fell on hard times.
Right.
And she came to the grandpa for moolah.
Oh, that's
to
when
help her out.
That's when the grandpa had a problem.
And then he went at her and said, "Oh yeah, now you come to me after you all of this stuff you had against my wishes and my stuff and everything, and now you want my help? Well, let me tell you something. He had a small business. I think he said he employed 23 people or something. And he's talking about that Obama's targeting him. His taxes are going to go up and everything. What planet is this guy from?
You got 18 tax cuts, I think, Obama for small businesses.
Small businesses are not on Obama's radar.
No, where do they get their facts from?
I don't know. But the point of it is,
so he was a miserly, skinflint grandpa.
He was sticking it up her can. That's what he was doing. Now that he had the upper hand.
Well, didn't Romney?
He was saying, "Well, we don't have the money now."
Well, he's a scumbag grandpa. That's all I got to say. I mean, that's what Romney said in the debate, right? The purpose of the American government is to allow you to go to your friends and family when you need help. Something like we have to care for one another in God's in God's country we got. That's what this grandpa was saying. He was saying, "You're on your own, kid."
Well, yeah, but he was.
You can't count on Grandpa.
He couldn't help her no more. Well, if he was still in business, what do you mean he
couldn't help her? No, he did not want to help.
Exactly, but he was saying he couldn't because he's going to get hurt so much from Obama.
Bullshit. He's a piece of shit. He's a piece of shit. Any grandfather that has his own business, or even a grandfather that doesn't have his own business, who is not willing to help their grandchild out that falls on hard times, is a piece of shit.
And he probably would call himself a Christian too.
Yeah, false Christian, phony Christian.
Yeah, where's the Christian would give her
counterfeit Christian?
Where's the Christian would give her 2 coats? See?
Or if someone, the poor is hungry, give them something to eat. Or look,
in ancient Israel and in the millennium, God made laws. He made laws that when you go out and you harvest your field, you leave the outer edges for the poor. the widow, and the stranger.
And you hope that the poor people that come to get the produce don't try to hog it off and start fighting amongst each other. That'll happen in today's America. That'll happen. You'll have some piece of shit poor person who is actually has the mind of a criminal who'll try to take everything for themselves, and people will be fighting over the. You have to ration.
Well, if everybody was doing it in ancient Israel,
got to ration it out.
You know. It wouldn't be a problem because it would be so much. There would be so much available.
There's abundance. And
I'm sure there weren't that many poor then. Anyway, because everybody had their land.
Just like when Captain Catron...
The land was given to them by Lot. By Joshua.
Well, Captain Catron told me life in the Ukraine under Leonid Brezhnev, we had the agriculture in Ukraine back then, there was so much overabundance.
Yeah, look at the Ukraine today.
That there was plenty for everybody.
Under capitalism.
Oh yeah, capitalism really did a good job. Ronald Reagan, if you're somewhere listening, did a good job on Russia. Yeah.
Well, he made them squeal.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna take a break because we're running behind, and then after I'm gonna do a real quick promo, and Dr. Bill is gonna sink his teeth into the readings because we have to get through these readings, and it's time for his, gastronomic delight known as lunch. And I just want to tell you that we had another weekly message from the elitist 1% corporate CEOs and conservative Republicans. A message for the poor. Excuse me. A message for the poor and the lower middle class. A very cold, robotic kind of voice. Sounds like we are here to kill you.
I believe I heard that. That's what I heard.
Oh yeah. All right. Let's take that break. Let's take that break. Take that break. Take that break.
Station break.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, it's amazing, Dr. Bill, how many people today in America are just flat out incompetent. There are so many numbskulls. I mean, every day I see it, and people. What was it in the news about Facebook reaching like a billion members, something like that, and they were going on and on about how wonderful technology is, that people all over the world can connect and whatever, and I mean, which is true, but you also got to remember there's a lot of nincompoops and idiots that are online too, connecting and really not accomplishing anything positive.
Playing chess.
Uh-huh.
And he called me names.
Oh yeah?
We just began the game. Yeah, after he said hi, I said hi.
And he insulted you.
And then he called me all kinds of names, and he ended with faggot.
Why don't you you didn't play chess with him, did you?
I beat his ass.
Oh, you played him?
That's correct. What do you think, I was going to let him get away?
And after you beat his ass, did you call him and...
he ran like a,
He didn't give you a chance to call him any names?
What the hell do I want to call him names for? I don't even know the guy.
Like your chess playing ability is much like your personality and your intelligence?
I showed him my chess playing ability.
You see, this is the problem. a lot of progressive liberals have this age-old problem, you know, where they're cutting their nose off to spite their face. They don't go on the offense. You're too passive. You know, you like the Star Trek episode when you had Kirk was divided into two parts, the passive Captain Kirk and the negative Captain Kirk, and the passive Captain Kirk could not survive without the negative part of Kirk.
Your way of dealing with things leads to nowhere.
But this guy insulted you without.
And what did I do?
Without even knowing you.
What did I do to him?
Nothing.
I kicked his ass.
In chess, yeah.
Where it hurts.
But you should have threw a dig in.
I proved something to him.
But you should have threw.
I didn't have to throw a dig in there.
But he's calling you names and he doesn't know you.
Sticks and stones will break my bones.
This is why you have a Republican
but
Congress.
names
This
will
is
never
why you
hurt me.
This is why you have a Republican Congress in the United States.
Never return evil for evil.
Yeah, come on. That's not what
the Bible.
That's not what the Old Testament said.
Yes, it does.
It says eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth.
That has something to do with something else.
Yeah.
Okay?
This guy.
Don't forget, the people in the Old Testament were being taught. They had not gone to the level that Jesus met them in the New Testament. Ancient Israel, you know, I mean, they had to learn a lot of lessons.
So what would you suggest to people in the Middle Ages when the Vikings raided their villages? To just allow them to just destroy your village?
No, they had to fight back at that time. But what I would advise was to prevent those things. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like,
have preventive qualities to avoid that.
That's why they all communities had a fortress around it. Had a stone wall.
Walled cities. But then they came along, and the opposite armies come along and besiege the city.
They had the battering ram.
Because the city is dependent upon water, which most times is outside the city.
Well,
and food.
Listen, I'm telling you right now, if Joe Biden and Barack Obama take your approach, the end times will be accelerated with the United States.
It's already accelerated.
Because Romney will get in. You know, with your approach of not going for the jugular vein.
Your approach is to stop the end times?
No, my approach.
Well, what are you trying to say?
My approach is to make an effort to minimize and put off the Great Tribulation.
That's not what God is doing.
So we're supposed to sit back.
He's bringing about the tribulation.
So we're supposed to sit back and let the idiots in the United States just vote in Romney and that's it, right?
What does that have to do with calling them names when they call you names?
Because if Obama loses the election, it will be because of the same personality defect that you're talking about being passive when somebody's attacking you.
That's not passive when you go out and you beat them at their own freaking game.
But the name calling
names don't lead
The
anywhere.
name calling had no connection with chess playing.
No, it had its connection with his personality. And what happened then was the game began and Dr. Bill kicked his ass, proving that Dr. Bill was greater than he. And he didn't have to call him a name.
But there were personal attacks.
Not one name.
He deserved the knuckle sandwich.
Again, where does that lead?
You reap what you sow.
Take it to your.
You reap what you sow.
Take it to your level of wrestling.
Right.
One wrestler comes on and badmouths another one.
Then the other wrestler.
Then the other wrestler comes on and badmouths to this guy.
Right.
Then they have a battle. And one wins.
Right.
And the other guy gets loose. And he goes somewhere, who the hell knows where.
In a locker room.
And then this guy badmouths somebody else. And then another guy comes along.
And maybe beats
And it goes on and on and on. It's theatrics. Do not return evil for evil.
Now, how are you supposed to keep the evil person out of Washington if you don't go up against him hard? Hard. How are you supposed to do that?
In our system?
How?
Don't vote for him. That's our system.
But in the debates, if both people don't go at each other's jugular vein, the idiots in America will vote for the one who's the most charismatic and full of spunk.
That's God's plan.
You know what?
God's plan?
It's bullshit.
You're against God's plan?
Of letting
all of this stuff that is happening.
Of letting the country go to hell in a handbasket?
All of
No. You don't allow.
All of this is of God.
We can't be letting. Oh, so you want to let all the bigots and racists and homophobes and anti-science, anti-stem cell research, and anti-minimum wage.
It's not me.
And living wage. You want to let all these people that are against what's good get in control of Washington.
It's not me.
That sounds good.
According to the Bible, none of this stuff will cease until that most wonderful time when Jesus Christ comes.
So we're supposed to...
So that is what God is waiting for.
But we don't know when that's going to happen. So we're supposed to...
But all of this stuff is of God bringing it about.
So we're supposed to sit back and suffer?
Obviously.
And let Romney get in? Because Obama doesn't want to fight him aggressively?
Mitt Romney's part of God's plan?
You know what? Horse shit. No. Obama and Biden have to go for the Republican jugular vein. That's the way to do it. Let me get this over
People
with.
have been doing that.
No. I know James P. Madonna knows what he's talking about. There's got to be more aggression in the Democratic Party.
Aggression is not calling names.
But no, bringing up facts. Bringing up the truth, not name calling.
You just said name calling.
No, I'm saying bringing up the truth in a more enthusiastic manner.
That's Romney. Hey, Romney. You changed your whole theme, Romney.
Let me see now. You made a statement way back when that you didn't care for the 47%. That's not going to inspire people to vote for you. Looking down at your notes and being calm, and the other guy is all full of fire and venom, and he's coming at you, and you're just like, well, I did cut taxes for the small businessman in the middle. The small businessman got about 18 tax cuts during my 4 years in office, and I want to thank Mr. Jim Lair. I want to thank everybody, and it's my anniversary. It's my anniversary. We're in a holy war. Act like it. Act like it.
We are not. What are you going to fight God?
No.
Well, that's what you're doing. I just told you.
You think
it's all His doing?
You think God is for the Republican Party and all their wicked ways?
He's for the destruction and punishment of this country. However it comes about, that's what He's for.
Abuse for the poor. And the disabled,
teaches the lesson.
And kids going to bed hungry and bashing gays. You think God is
the way of peace? They know not.
So what are we supposed to do? Just let it all happen?
If it's of God, obviously.
I don't know. Bill's got his interpretation.
No, it's not an interpretation.
Ken Create has his interpretation of the Bible. Everybody's got their interpretation of how God thinks.
No, they don't. God tells you how He thinks, and I'm telling you what He says and what He's doing.
So everybody's suffering.
And it's of Him. So
everybody's suffering.
That's correct.
Is meant to be.
Except the 144,000.
Yeah. So let Romney get in and everybody go to hell in a handbasket.
Faster.
Let Romney get in.
Hey, if it's of God.
Oh, by the way, God don't like. I don't think He's too crazy about people with fetishes either.
See?
I don't think He's too fond of that either.
You see, He's not. What does that have to do with anything? That's the name calling. You just exhibited it.
No, I was very calm.
No,
I was very calm about it.
You just did it. That's name calling. And that is an example of a small ego
No, well, I have compassion
So for whom?
for the poor, for the people that are suffering, for the gays that are being bashed, for the homeless veterans living in tents, etc.,
And
etc.
I guess when Jesus comes back, none of this will be taken care of, except if there's
Well,
James Madonna.
Well, when
around.
is he going to be taken? When is he coming back?
After these things happened in World War III,
So
the tribulation.
meanwhile, the forces of good are supposed to sit back and let Romney just waltz into Washington, take over, and all the
None.
welfare will be gone, and Social Security,
None.
Social Security will be destroyed,
None
and
are
people
good.
will be starving and living in cardboard boxes and suffering. And I might as well die because, you know, Bill says, the Bible says that
None are good.
we're supposed to like sort of perish because it's meant to be. And no, you pick yourself up and you survive.
None are good.
Letting Romney get elected is not good, by the way.
That's a different tale in entirely. But if it's of God, it's going to happen.
I'm talking about there's good and there's evil.
The difference between
There's the right-
one who is not a prophet and one who is, if it comes true, it's of God. If it doesn't, it ain't.
This guy next to me, this is a self-portrait of the Reverend Dr. William J. Eisenman, because Dr. Bill is a fine watercolor artist. You can go to Google and type in the William J. Eisenman collection, or you can go to our Newsletter Censored page and see the whole album. And if there's a watercolor painting that you like, go to newslettercensored.com, email Dr. Bill, and you can acquire an authentically signed watercolor painting. If you want to join our organization, the very best way to be a part of our organization and join it is to get your free annual subscription to Newsletter Censored. Newsletter Censored was founded in 1977 by the Reverend Dr. William J. Eisenman. It contains information that most people are afraid to hear. Can you handle it? This is the best way to join our organization. You need Newsletter Censored. We are living in the end times. You need Newsletter Censored to learn how to defeat a conservative. And it's just loaded with so much information. And this is it. This is what we're all about. The newsletter, founded in 1977. So go to newslettercensored.com, click on the printable order form, and with your gift to support this work, get your free annual subscription to Newsletter Censored. If you want to know how to join our organization, well, this is it. The one and only Newsletter Censored. Okay. That is my abbreviated running behind style of promo. And imagine you're done. But before we came back on the air, very appropriate sound actually for this show is the siren. Couldn't pick a better sound. We were talking about something before we came back on the air, and I was making a reference to something that you were telling me. It slipped my mind. It had to do with people. Oh, yes. People, the reason why Mitt Romney got this great review, even though he lied through his teeth and he didn't have the facts and he was flip-flopping, as he does often. He got great reviews because of his the way he presented himself, very enthusiastically and full of energy, and his eyes bugged out, and he talked fast, and his body language, maybe his hands were waving around a bit, as opposed to Obama, who was extremely relaxed. And it reminded me of how Americans are attracted to entertainment and being entertained. And the reason why we have all these phony, lying, sometimes dishonest TV evangelists that have such a huge following, and compared to somebody like David C. Pack, who tells the real truth about the Bible, who has a much, much smaller following, and the phonies become very rich because
That's prophesied by God too.
people donate so much money to them, but they're turned. There's one thing they have in common: people in America, or maybe the world, mostly America, are turned on to the theatrics, the entertainment aspect of it, without paying attention to the content of the debate. They responded to Romney's theatrics and excitement, and that's pretty much it. Because if you paid attention to the content, you would see that Romney is all for the rich, and they really hate the poor, and that Romney will only help the rich, like any Republican. And that's it. And they're just their objective is greed. So what I'm trying to say is that since people respond so much to entertainment and theatrics, it would be better for Barack Obama to present his true facts in an energetic, full steam ahead manner, just like the way Romney's doing, since Americans are turned on by entertainment. They want to be entertained. You know, they don't want to hear David C. Pack calmly telling you the truth about the Bible, or the Reverend Dr. William J. Eisenman. They want somebody going, hallelujah, ooh, you know, with their hands up in the air. I laid my hands on him, ooh, you know, like Peter Popoff and his wife.
So in other words, people who are doing God's work should become like those who aren't. That's
No,
what you're saying?
because an evangelist sounds phony. But what I'm saying is,
How does he sound phony if he has all these people around him?
because
It certainly doesn't sound phony to them.
because of the way he's delivering his information.
Well, but you are saying that someone who is holding the truth and is putting out the truth, just because he doesn't have a large following, he should do what the other guy's doing.
No, he should say it.
They are saying it. The problem is not with them. The problem is with the crowd.
What if David
Go
C.
back into the Old Testament and see.
What if
Every time Moses said something, understand the other thing, ancient Israel backslid. And they went back to their old ways. It's the crowd.
Okay, what
They
if?
are influenced
Why
by.
doesn't David C. Pack mention to his listeners and his viewers how the evangelists are not only wrong about the Bible and don't preach the Scripture, that people shouldn't be duped by their charisma and enthusiasm. They should realize that what they're preaching is really not in the Bible, and sometimes you have to go.
They don't say that?
David C. Pack has to go on more of an offense, just like Barack Obama needs to go on the offense. What's the old saying in football? The best defense is a great offense.
That's in football.
And even Bruno Sammartino used to do that with his
That's
opponents.
in wrestling.
Offense.
That's in wrestling. That's in politics. That's in the other thing you mentioned.
Japan did it to
But
the
it has
United
nothing to do with
States,
telling the truth.
hitting Pearl Harbor.
What the hell does that have to do with anything?
Offense. You hit them. You get ahead of the game by hitting
You are
them.
talking about things which God doesn't like,
But you're
and
dealing.
you want to perpetuate them.
But you're dealing with the forces of evil.
Exactly.
How do you want to handle evil? You want to be nice?
And what does your friend? What does your friend tell you all the
want to
time?
be nice to them?
We are not fighting people. We are fighting principalities.
Right.
And what's the rest of that?
We're
You can't beat them. The principality.
we're not up against flesh and blood.
Smokey.
We're up against not Smokey either. Smokey's a cat. you can't fight against evil spirits,
That's correct.
but you can deal with the human idiots that are their tools.
That's correct, and that's what you're doing.
But
But it's not the way you are wanting it to be done.
Well, the
because
American-
you are trying.
fuck.
You are trying to go against prophecy.
The American media is doing a good job
Luke 32:12
of
says
making
what?
Romney look good because Romney had spunk and Obama was laid back. All right.
And whose fault is that?
How do you cope with that?
Whose fault is that?
Well, the media is controlled by corporations, so they're
But
going to.
whose fault ultimately is it that believes that stuff?
The people that are listening and
Correct.
watching. Well, how do you deal with these idiots then? How do you get them to see the light and vote for the right person?
Sure.
How do you do it?
I'm sure that's not what's supposed to happen. You're not going to deal
All
with
right,
it.
so become an emaciated, starved, poor person, and suffer, and just that's it, and just lay down and croak. Ah, yeah. Oh, not a nice way to. I'm sure the
If you're talking
greats
about
of the
human
greats of
things-
humanity would appreciate hearing that.
If you're talking about human things, there's one way to deal with them. When you're talking about God stuff, you deal with His way. Period. Not your way. That's the whole thing.
You know, Bruce
He wants to break you. He wants to humble you.
humble you. Well, who's going? Then how is your life going to become better if you don't?
You will never
take action.
understand anything of Him unless you are broken.
So if you're broken and the Republicans get total control of the world, let's say, and
It will only be briefly.
and you're gonna
Briefly.
you're gonna end up working for 50 cents an hour, or
Briefly.
32 cents an hour, like in China, Foxconn.
3.5 years.
And you're supposed to be friggin' happy with that?
The beast will have 3.5 years, that's all. It's not forever. It's not forever.
You know what? Get to the readings.
You gotta understand God's
I
position,
gotta
man.
understand that. You know, Bruce Lee said something very wise one time. He mentioned that we must be careful about putting limitations on ourselves, because putting the limitations in your mind will make those limitations a reality.
Totally different. There are limitations. The human being cannot breathe without air. That's a limitation.
Well, you need air.
That's a limitation.
Well, that's a basic.
Well, then don't go
Physiological.
saying that Bruce Lee said all limitations you should not adhere to. Sorry, that doesn't work in the real world. There are limitations
Some.
to your thoughts. Though thoughts can't conquer all.
Yeah, some things can be overcome, but there are limitations that are unavoidable.
Well, then make that distinction. Don't go saying, oh, Bruce Lee said.
You know what? This is why you have a Republican Congress right now.
No, you don't. You have a Republican Congress because the Tea Party ingratiated themselves to the Republicans' boobs who want a small government.
So what happened to all the people during that particular election? What happened to all the people that traditionally vote progressive and vote Democrats, like minorities, disabled people, women?
Maybe they didn't turn out.
They didn't get to the polls?
Who knows? Republicans are doing this voter fraud shit all over the world now, all over the country now, aren't they?
I heard.
In all the
I-
battleground states.
Is
and
it
et cetera.
true that in Florida there's a possibility that they accounted for votes from dead people?
It has never happened. It has never happened. There is not one case on record of any personal, in-person voter fraud. None.
You're being sarcastic.
I'm being truthful. It has never existed. It is a ploy by the Republicans,
Oh,
which you have just sucked into.
that there is voter fraud? I believe there was voter fraud.
Where? I said in person. You just said a dead person voted.
No.
Never happened.
Not in person. In person would
Well,
be.
what do you call it when you go to the voting place and you vote? It's in person.
It's in person.
Yeah.
You must be alive.
Yeah.
Right. So the voter fraud.
And you must be on the roll.
So the voter fraud was electronic.
The voter fraud is a phony ploy by the Republicans to disenfranchise Hispanics, blacks, and the elderly,
In other words,
who typically vote Democrat.
in other words, psychologically, to keep them from going to the polls because they're going to
and
feel.
making it hard for them.
So the
In the days after the Civil War, there was something called a poll tax.
Bill is
which blacks,
Bill is in a real rare mood for interrupting James this
which
week.
blacks, because James seems not to be adhering to truths here today.
No, you want to win. You want to win the debate. That's
I
the problem.
never wish to win the debate. I do not debate, number one.
You can be just as stubborn as Ken creates. Sometimes.
Stubborn is something entirely different.
So what you're
I do not debate, and you know that.
see. So what you're saying is that
I told you.
psychologically, coming up with all these articles about voter fraud causes people that traditionally vote Democrat to give up and not even bother to go and vote and stay home.
They are trying, just like I tried to make the example of the poll tax, they are trying to make it as difficult as possible to get an ID and get this and everything to go to the poll. They even want you to pay for it. No, to get the ID. The acceptable
Well,
ID.
the poor they're not going to do that.
No kidding! And that accomplishes what? Exactly what the Republicans want.
taking Democratic votes away from Democratic politicians.
That's correct. Because, as Mr. Viggory has even stated,
Poll tax?
if I don't want everybody to vote, he said. Because frankly, if we don't have the numbers to win unless we make the voting public smaller.
Then why must they win? That's a good question.
Because that is what they want.
Who
They
cares?
want power.
Who cares
They
what
do not govern, they rule.
Who cares what selfish people want? Who cares?
Because selfish people get into positions of power and lord it over you.
Maybe you.
Everybody.
Yeah, sure.
Everybody. Go ahead. Try to go sue the government now today.
Didn't the colonists do it to King George back in the Revolutionary days?
No. The army did. Against the army of Great Britain.
Right.
2/3 of the people sat it out.
2/3 of the colonists.
That's correct. 1/3 were Tories
The
who
militia.
liked George III and the British in America. You know, you got the wrong idea about things.
Interesting.
A small percentage of people get things done when they get it done, such as ending the Vietnam War. There's only 5%
What do you mean?
of the people.
What do you mean when they get it done?
Because obviously, many times they do not get it done. Like right now. You think they're going to win the battle against Monsanto and DuPont
Through.
or Big Pharma?
You sound like you're for them.
That has nothing to do with
No,
something when you tell the truth.
You ever hear of educating people as to what Big Pharma and Monsanto are really doing? And you ever hear of boycott?
Let's see.
The word boycott?
I know people who've been doing that for over 30 years.
So what do you do?
And guess what?
You let it happen?
And guess what? Monsanto is more powerful today than it ever was.
Because the media's on their side. The media doesn't let the masses know.
So what are you going to do? Go beat the media up on its head? It all comes down to the crowd.
The people have.
You know, when they were when they were asked.
With his way of thinking, Gary Null would not even
No, it doesn't
would
stop
not even
there,
have the
no.
Progressive Radio Network. He wouldn't
No,
even
no, no,
have
no,
his videos.
No, you got it wrong
documentaries.
all the time. Warn! But you're not going to convince. The job of warning is not done out. Gary No doesn't go out of business because Monsanto is so powerful.
So if Obama and Joe Biden go to the debates warning, and they warn in a relaxed, namby-pamby
And
way,
if people believe, then who wins?
but why must it be in a with this?
You're not
Why must it
grasping.
always be in this civilized, wishy-washy, bipartisanship manner? Why does it have to be? If the other person is attacking you with their bullshit, you have to go head on like two bighorn sheep
What are you
in the
trying to do?
Rockies.
What are you trying to do there?
Huh?
What are you trying to do there? See, you change your
You're in a
position.
battle.
No, you change your position. I want to win the crowd. You want to win the battle between the two personalities. I'm not interested in that.
But this is a battle for the crowd.
I'm not interested in that.
It's good and evil.
No, it isn't winning for the crowd. You are taking, this one's got to win over this one. Two personalities. No, this one's got to convince this crowd that he's right. Because we can get nothing done without the crowd. This is a country called a democratic republic.
Well, it's a fascist country now.
It's supposed to be a democracy. And you don't get a democracy to do anything without the people.
So go to a debate and be passive and let the other
Nobody's
guy.
saying that. You are putting in your own interpretation.
Well, this is what the media said, that Romney was full of energy and all this stuff,
But
and
he
Obama.
He had no substance. He told lies. Now, whose fault is that now who comes up later and says, Romney was, he wanted to debate. Whose fault is it now? You're giving the crowd a pass, and it's their fault for everything.
Well, maybe the polls coming from the media that they base their reviews on, maybe they're not 100% truthful.
Maybe, but also they polled the people who saw the debate. And they saw it one way, whilst other people saw it another way.
And that's why I'm saying that Americans are the laughingstock of the world for a reason. There's a lot of idiots. I mean, look at it this way. They voted in Obama. It was in 2008, right? And then they turned around and they voted in a Republican Congress. Talk about flip-flopping. Very stupid move, man. Very stupid move.
Because they don't understand.
Because they're dumb.
They don't go back in history. You would not have Social Security today if you depended on Republican votes. They did not vote for it.
Hey, get off of Broadway. Get off of your doing King Lear or whatever you're doing, and start with your readings, because he's so
Energetic.
no, he's so
I'm forceful.
persistent in drowning me out and making me look like I don't know anything, and Bill knows every fucking thing. That's what he's eating up the whole show, trying to beat old James P. Madonna.
See,
you
this
should
is
be
what I just told you.
you should be going
I
with the
just told you this was not the truth, and now you bring it out. I'm not interested in personal battles.
Then why would you eat up the whole show with this
Because
debate?
you persist. You don't understand.
Because
these things are being brought about by a power greater than you. And
But,
you're sitting here and saying, well, I'm not going to let it
But
happen.
Obama,
I'm not going to let it
or if
happen.
you're a good Christian, you should be a Christian soldier too, like Ken Create says, a Christian soldier.
Christian is told to pray for the kingdom to come immediately.
Well, there's a reason why the media was giving all these brownie points to Mitt Romney and not to Obama. Obama can't afford to let this happen again in the second debate. It can't.
Why?
Biden cannot afford to let it happen up against.
Supposing God has
Ryan.
already said that Mitt Romney should win.
Excuse me.
I said, supposing God has already determined that Mitt Romney should win.
Well, if
now,
Mitt,
what are you going to do?
if Mitt Romney is supposed to win,
I didn't
then
say that.
means-
I said suppose.
so good people should suffer. Oh, that sounds
They
like
want to suffer anyway.
that sounds like a really. Why would God make a decision?
11
that
of
is
the
not-
original apostles were martyred. Gee, I think that's suffering. Huh? I think that's suffering.
Well, maybe if the apostles spread the word over a much larger crowd, maybe.
When Jesus died, only 120 people believed.
Yeah, that's from what I understand. Yeah.
Okay? The greatest preacher in all the world, and only 120 believed.
He only got 120
That's correct.
as his follower.
Oh, I guess he just wasn't charismatic enough, perhaps.
I bet Peter Popoff.
I mean,
and
feeding 5,000.
I bet Pat Robertson and Peter Popoff and Joel Osteen and Benny Hinn, I bet they got a lot more than 120.
Can they turn water into wine?
No.
Can they feed 5,000 with a fish and a couple of loaves?
No.
Well,
they just
then.
speak lies and
Who
they
cares about their charismatic?
and they act charismatic.
Okay?
They get funky. But they
cares?
tell lies. Yeah. All right, go ahead.
A teenage mammoth that once roamed the Siberian tundra in search of fodder and females might have been killed by an Ice Age hunter on a summer day tens of thousands of years ago.
Fodder and females.
Professor Alexei Tikhonov of the Zoology Institute in St. Petersburg announced the finding of the mammoth, which was excavated from the Siberian permafrost in late September near the Sapolnaya Karga Cape, 2,200 miles northeast of Moscow.
Mm-hmm.
The 16-year-old mammoth,
Mammoth?
not Monmouth County, mammoth,
Yeah, mammoth.
has been named Genya
Genya? Okay. Gotta name it something.
after the 11-year-old Russian boy who found the animal's limbs sticking out of the frozen mud.
Now, this was a woolly mammoth? Or a mammoth? A woolly mammoth, yeah.
The mammoth was 6 feet 6 inches tall and weighed 1,100 pounds.
It was a youngin'.
He was pretty small.
He's
for
a
his
baby.
age.
That's a baby for a mammoth. They have mammoth DNA. They were going to put it into a female Asian elephant to bring back the woolly mammoth. Gee, whatever happened to that experiment? How come the media is not letting us know? And the same thing about finding Tyrannosaurus Rex DNA in Montana in the bone marrow. This scientist was going to put it in fertile chicken eggs and
Perhaps
bring back the dino chicken. Whatever happened to that? How come all these fascinating scientific articles I read get buried by the media?
perhaps these experimenters run up against religious nuts.
Screw religious nuts.
You know, you have this way of
Screw
screwing people in
them.
power. You can't do it.
If I was a paleontologist, I'm going to do my experiments.
Where's the money going to come from?
How hard can it be to inject DNA into a fertilized chicken egg? How much money could it cost to
You need
inject
a lab. You need implements. You need people to work for you. You need all of this stuff. It costs money. It's just like some entrepreneur comes up with some innovation tomorrow. Where's he going to get the money?
You're right. Well,
If he's Romney, he can go to one of his relatives.
well, something positive must have happened with that clinic that's growing organs from people's, I guess,
Maybe.
is that DNA or stem cell?
Stem cells.
Stem cells. They're I'm sure you have to be rich to acquire one of those organs,
Probably.
because I wouldn't think that they're cheap for anybody. who needs a kidney, but they successfully implanted a kidney in this young man, and everything's fine. And they bank, I guess they bank stem cells, and they're growing them, but they obviously are operating business. So
Yeah, but under Ryan's plan, voucher system for Medicare, I'm sure you won't be able to afford it if you need it.
they don't want Medicare and Medicaid to exist, the Republicans.
No, they say that, well, you won't die in your apartment. You call the ambulance comes for you, takes you to the emergency room. That is their health care plan.
And then you might drop dead there. In the emergency room.
Then you won't be you will be cost effective that way. Because it won't cost the people, who are paying taxes any money.
Now,
you die.
Now, do you understand what I mean by a battle against
It's not
evil?
It's not a battle. It's a convincing of the crowd. The crowd. Think in terms of the crowd, not the personality.
Well,
God is not a respecter of persons.
Well, unfortunately, all those people living in red states are religious nuts.
But they are a crowd, aren't they?
A crowd of nuts.
They are a crowd who needs convincing, if they can be convinced. There are some people that when Jesus rules from Jerusalem, they will be called incorrigible, and they will be outside the kingdom. But they will be there.
There are many people in red states
Who are incorrigible.
who believe the opposite of what your next God project is going to be about. Called
And so what should you do with them? Bop them over the head with a mallet?
kiss them and have friggin' tea and scones and blueberry muffins with them. Yeah. Yes.
They must be convinced, or they are incorrigible.
They believe
And
in
then
an
you just
immortal soul.
And
That's
then you
what-
leave them alone. If they are incorrigible, then you have no truck with them. It's as simple as that. Hopeful parents. A new study has bad news for you. According to a study of Los Angeles area youth ages 12 to 18, kids who sext,
That's texting dirty things.
are not using it as a replacement for actual sex.
No.
In fact, the study shows that those who admit to sexting are significantly more likely to say they also engage in sexual intercourse.
But that's the whole objective. If you're sexting with somebody, the objective is to get together physically with that person.
The result may seem obvious, but some researchers hadn't previously been convinced. They wondered if kids might use sexting as a safer but still thrilling activity that would partially replace sex in their lives,
Give me a break. Thrilling. It's boring.
allowing them
Boring.
to interact in an explicit fashion with their peers without the risk of pregnancy.
Without the fun of having sexual intercourse, you mean? There's nothing like the real thing, baby. Remember that song? There's nothing like the real thing. Ooh, yeah.
Speaking of sex,
Another one.
3 teachers and 2 administrators at a school, at a South Jersey high school, were arrested on Thursday
Uh-huh.
on charges stemming from allegations the teachers had sex with the students.
Well, if the student is a minor, that's a very bad thing. But if the student is 18 years old, I think it's nobody's damn business.
Camden County prosecutor Warren Falk said,
Falk?
not like whatchamacallit Falk, Columbo,
Peter Falk.
not like Peter Falk, no, said the principal and vice principal at Triton High School
Right.
in Runnymede were charged with official misconduct for allegedly failing to report the relationships when they learned about them.
Hanky-panky.
Falk said the school had a culture that allowed the relationships to happen, even though school policies clearly barred them.
It's called raging hormones.
Authorities said the relationships between 3 male teachers and 3 female students ages 17 or 18
If they're 18, it's nobody's damn business. Like I said before.
occurred between November 2011 and June.
Uh-huh.
They said explicit text messages were also sent during school hours.
Then you'll have biased grading. You know, the girls that are having the affair will get like straight A's. That's not
If
good
they are
either.
good at a BJ.
You mean
Otherwise,
you mean
a blowjob.
polishing the old knob, polishing the knob.
Polishing the bishop. That's it.
So if waxing,
Wax on,
no,
wax off?
waxing the bishop is jerking off. Polishing the knob would be the
Oh, well,
blowjob.
that's- yes, yes.
So if they polished, if they did a good job of polishing the teacher's knob, they got their grades
A
increased.
plus.
Well, an A plus is if they're a good lay.
Not
Fuck.
always.
Fuck.
Not always.
A bunch of dorks that don't want to go all the way. Come on.
Not always. Intercourse is a very.
Intercourse is a very pleasurable thing.
It is a very. What's the word I'm looking for?
Exciting thing.
No. It's very hard
Yeah, you're
to
right.
synchronize between the two.
Well,
for intercourse
it has to be
purposes.
mutual. It has to be mutual synchronization.
Well, I'm sure if they're entering into it, it's mutual.
Chemistry has to be on a high mutual level. It can happen, but the chemistry has to be right.
The Black Horse Regional School District superintendent said the district is cooperating with authorities and reviewing its policies.
Interesting. Tantalizingly interesting. You have any articles about the recent debate?
No.
You got to be kidding me. The first debate of 2012 and there's no articles?
It wasn't important.
It is important.
It wasn't important.
It's headline
In the
news.
great scheme of things.
It's important to professionalism of this show.
67 million people saw the debate.
It's not important,
What
and we're doing our weekly show.
What the hell have we've been talking about for an hour and a half on the show as the debate?
But maybe there is
What
some.
do you want? Some a newspaper journalist's opinion?
I want their views. I
Who's
want
more
it.
important? Your view, my view, or their view?
Well, maybe they brought up some detail that we missed.
And maybe they didn't.
Why you read light stuff if there's a heavy duty article underneath that? You know, don't you prioritize
Because-
your reading?
No, I do not. I come and go as they please.
Oh God.
You're going to find.
He's speaking like an artist, because artists are that way.
You're
They're
going
very
to find
independent.
that in the great scheme of things, the debate was not important.
Oh, really?
Those people who have already made up their mind have already made up their mind.
Well, that I know.
Okay? So the debate means nothing. Consumers shouldn't pay more for organic food because of what it adds to their diets. Research suggests the only gain may come from what it doesn't add.
Yeah, it's a lie.
Well, we didn't get there yet.
Yeah,
You
organic
don't
food.
make that comment until the end of the article.
I've read studies comparing organic.
The study was phony. Now that you blew it out of the bag,
All right, go ahead.
it was paid for by the Monsanto boys, the non-organic promulgators.
It further reinforces what I've been saying about a holy war against good and evil. It reinforces it. Go ahead.
There's always been a war against good and evil.
Well, lying
But our problem is we're not able to determine many times which is evil and which is good. Because the way of peace we know not, as Isaiah says.
What about the way of Americans not being lazy and doing their research? That should help.
But they're lazy. How can that help?
No, they'll listen to
They'll let Bill O'Reilly tell them what to think. They'll let Rush Limbaugh tell them what to think.
Well, they're listening.
It's easy that way.
Well, I never listen to Fox commentator. I don't even put Fox on unless I absolutely have to, but which is almost never.
Organic foods that account for $27 billion in U.S. grocery sales offer no more vitamins and nutrients than conventional products.
Mm-hmm.
According to a review of 240 studies done at Stanford University in California.
Maybe Stanford University's on the take.
I believe that's what Mr. Gary Knoll said upon investigating this situation.
But unfortunately,
it was phony.
But unfortunately, we didn't hear that information from anybody but Gary Knoll. The mainstream media never told us
because the mainstream media
that it was phony.
Get talking points. They get press releases. They get these things and then they read it. I had a fight with someone yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
One of our workers here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Who doesn't get the idea that all the news programs, or 90% of it,
mm-hmm.
every day they have the same stories.
It's true.
They have the same damn news stories on all of them, except some maybe some local one here or there. They might have, different choices. But it's the same thing over and over and over again.
Right. And most of them are not like Lionel. They hold back on their personal opinions about things.
Well, I wouldn't put too much into Lionel. You put too much whatchamacallit into personalities.
Yeah, well, Lionel is not always right. I realize that.
Thank you. You must go with what is right, not the person. Because even the most rightest person, if that's a word, is wrong in some ways.
Lionel is a
Christopher Hitchens for that.
Supposed progressive talk show, radio talk show, and now on the news here in the New York metropolitan area. He's been on WABC talk radio, and he's a lawyer. He's a pretty smart guy, but he's also very funny. He's naturally funny, and he has a personality. His name goes by the name of Lionel. So that's for those of you in other parts of the country that are wondering who Lionel is. Anyway, continue.
The research published in the Annals of Internal Medicine did find lower levels of pesticides in produce and antibiotic-resistant bacteria in meat.
Uh-huh.
U.S. sales of organic food rose 7-fold over a dozen years to $26.7 billion in 2010. There wasn't any strong evidence to support the idea that organic foods are significantly healthier. Organic foods typically are grown without pesticides, synthetic fertilizers, or genetically modified organisms.
Well, at least they were honest about that part.
And animals are not given antibiotics. While the studies found food produced in that manner to be 30% less likely to contain trace levels of pesticides, they noted that it was uncommon for any food in the United States to have unsafe levels. This study confirms that choosing organic foods reduces consumers' exposure to pesticide residues. and that the overuse of antibiotics in non-organic production leads to a higher level of bacteria resistant to antibiotics in meat. Studies have increasingly shown that the importance of minimizing young children's exposure to even low levels of chemical pesticides. Of the studies reviewed, 17 compared groups eating organic and non-organic foods, and 223 compared the nutrients, bacteria, fungus, and pesticides found in the foods. The studies looked at a variety of products, including meat, eggs, milk, and vegetables. None addressed the longer-term effects of organic foods. There have been no large studies that followed consumers of organic and non-organic foods to assess whether they had better overall health or lower rates of heart disease or cancer. The only nutrient that researchers found to be significantly higher in organic compared with non-organic foods was phosphorus, of which very few people. The researchers received no outside funding to do the analysis, according to the journal report.
Well, I have read many truthful, accurate research articles that prove that organic produce blows away inorganic produce by quite a bit.
Of course they
There's
do.
lots of evidence. Same thing with nutritional supplementation and therapies using nutritional supplementations, natural alternative therapies, holistic medicine, homeopathy. The list goes on and on. There's tons of evidence that it blows away allopathic drug, big pharma drug pushing promoted treatments. There's just so much evidence there. It's just that the news media is always interviewing big pharma or somebody from a medical doctor from, a drug pushing medical doctor from that is allopathic. They never really, and if they never interview anybody from alternative medicine or clinical nutritionists or whatever, but if they do interview a so-called nutritionist, it's always a registered dietitian that the news media is always interviewing.
Because the news media gets its support, its moolah, from advertising.
And that's why we see so many advertisements from the drug companies.
And that's why in the Journal of the American Medical Association, which is a union, by the way, for all those Republican union haters.
Yeah. And now you got advertisements for supplementary drugs to add to your drug regimen. Like if you're taking a psychiatric drug, I don't know, let's say a Zoloft or a Paxil or something like that, they're telling you to take a Abilify in addition to it. So, if this drug doesn't work, you need an additional drug.
Studies show that none of those drugs do better than a placebo. The antidepressive drugs, etc., antipsychotics and that stuff.
You need an additional one. And if you have negative side effects, they give you another drug and another drug.
It's a brain chemical imbalance.
But there's nothing more infuriating than watching America's news media look at a registered dietitian as the only credible nutritionist. It really pisses me off.
Your friend Kelly put up a very interesting video the other day.
Kelly Chen, right, of Singapore, yes.
Concerning the growth of allopathic medicine in this country.
Yeah. Well, you got the info about the stem cell thingy, stem cell
No,
project?
I did not.
Oh, okay.
No, I did not.
Yeah, she's involved with, they want her to represent these stem cell research in Asia. I mean, in the Singapore area, a lab, stem cell lab, bank and a lab.
In President Obama's first 6 months in office, he ordered all federal agencies to find ways to cut spending. He enforced equal pay for women, began withdrawal of the U.S. troops in Iraq, covered expenses on fallen soldiers when bodies arrived at Dover Air Force Base, ended the media blackout on war casualties, limited lobbyist access to the White House, rescued the United States auto industry, which put thousands back to work. Something that Mr. Romney said that they should go bankrupt. He cut the missile defense program by $1.4 billion, appropriated funds for school construction, expanded the SHIP program to cover health care for 4 million more children, visited more countries in his first 6 months than any other United States president. He made loans available for small businesses. Why didn't that grandpa get one? From that email.
Oh yeah, the grandpa, yeah.
I'm losing my
considering that's small businesses are considered part of the middle class, and the middle class are carrying the tax burden, but Obama has helped small businesses quite a bit.
Yes. He cut the payroll tax by 2.5% for business, 2.5% for individuals,
But
and improved benefits for veterans, and worked on increasing student loans. In other words, he is a working president, working for the middle and lower income citizens. If that is socialism, as the right would have it be, so be it.
I agree. Doing what's right for the people is the most important thing. If they want to call it socialism, so be it. The problem with the middle class is that the revenue and the tax burden should have remained on the rich. That's the problem.
No kidding.
That would solve
But we can't do that.
many problems.
We cannot tax the rich, but we can tax those on unemployment insurance. That's the kind of country we are.
It's funny how that works, right?
Yeah, it's funny. That's a Christian country.
They can tax unemployment insurance, but they can't tax the rich.
Right.
And of course the military, they've proved that if you trim the over-bloated military budget, all the social programs that were cut there will be plenty of money to help America's poor completely across the board.
There is plenty of money.
And the
It is not a
disabled.
matter of money. It is a matter of ideology. The right wants to destroy the United States government. It is very clear. Why can't people grasp
But
it?
when they destroy the United States government, the poor perish, or
That's correct. And the corporations get all the power.
and then they can bring slavery back. And
Whatever they want to do
and
then.
people can work for 32 cents an hour like they do in China.
Jack Welch, once CEO of General Electric,
Mm-hmm.
the man who began outsourcing in this country, was on television yesterday talking about the unemployment numbers and calling the Chicago boys around President Obama that they did something illegal or corrupt in changing the number. This man is on television when he should be in a prison cell.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? You should be ostracized. That's American. Oliver North. G. Gordon Liddy. It goes on and on and on and on. We reward the evil doers in this country. Very simple. Look what we did with Wall Street. Speaking of rewarding the evil.
Yeah, Wall Street.
Speaking of Wall Street, J.P. Morgan Chase and Company, Bank of America Corporation, and American Express Company are among credit card lenders retreating from a $2.4 billion market as regulators seek curbs on deceptive marketing of products, including debt cancellation. They caught Discover Card too. Discover Card was putting down you for, credit protection, that kind of stuff, which you didn't order. They were taking the money from your bill that you did order it.
Without authorization?
Without authorization from you.
So
they got caught.
So
they paid a fine.
So they were stealing?
They paid a fine.
Slap on the wrist.
Slap on the wrist. Cost of doing business. This is what I keep saying to you about the power. You can't battle the power by hitting it over the head with a mouth.
Yeah. Well, Romney's answer for curing the deficit problem is to cut public broadcasting in Sesame Street. Big Bird.
That's correct. That's correct.
Cut Sesame Street. That's his answer. Wall Street, different story. Sesame Street.
Scrutiny from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau has led to fines against banks including Capital One, Discover, prompting them to curtail sales of so-called add-ons that offer to help customers pay card bills if they can't get sick or lose their jobs. We're on a glide path to selling fewer, Discover Chief Executive Officer David Nelms said in September 27th interview. You have to ask regulators whether they want the product to go away or not, he said. From our perspective, we think that they add a good amount of value to some of our customers. American Express also is cooperating with regulators amid an industry-wide review. Amex, the biggest U.S. credit card issuer by purchasers, said Monday that it will pay $112.5 million to settle claims it violated consumer safeguards from marketing to collections in products sold to about 250,000 customers. They're crooks. They're crooks! And we let them go with the fine. The crackdown my ass. Oh, there is one down there.
There is a crackdown, but it's not a positive crack. Well, it's natural crackdown.
The industry lobbied against Dodd-Frank Act, in particular, before its passage in 2010. The law also included limits on debit card swipe fees paid by merchants, wiping out about $8 billion in annual revenue for the biggest U.S. bank.
That's a ripoff, in my opinion. Making merchants pay a fee for every swipe.
Well, if anybody should pay a fee, it should be the issuer of the credit card. But, see, here's a bigger thing. Again, what the hell do we need these private banks for? Did anybody ever hear of public banks? Like in North Dakota?
Is the savings and loan a public bank?
No.
Savings and loan? No.
Private entity.
What about...
public bank is one that's owned by the government.
What about credit unions?
But that's socialism. Credit unions, yes.
Are public?
Yes. They are public.
Okay.
Yes. The fees are under pressure, and the profitability model of a credit card business is in question. We are signaling as clearly as we can that other financial institutions should review their marketing practices to ensure that they are not deceiving or misleading consumers into purchasing financial products or services. Now, just one little addition to credit cards. Now sit down,
I am
right-wingers.
Oh, right-wingers.
Right-wingers who believe that Ronald Reagan should be a saint. It was under Ronald Reagan that the anti-usury laws in this country were done away with. And that's why your credit card company can charge you what it wants.
So along with shifting the tax burden from the rich to the middle class and the poor, Ronald Reagan has deregulated the banks to rip you off. Nice guy, the Hollywood actor. Nice guy. That's the patron saint of the right wing. Ronald Reagan is their patron saint.
That's what gives them the the moolah.
You know, so everything about a Republican seems to be very negative. Nothing positive about it. So how could they be representing the God of the Bible if everything that comes from them is wicked?
They don't, but they say they do.
Hey, I can
And
go,
guess what?
I can go around saying I'm descended from royalty and I should get special treatment. I mean,
Yeah.
people could say anything they
They
want.
can, but when they get supporters, they get power.
And therein is the problem. The supporters.
The crowd, again, it's the crowd. It's the crowd.
Crowd. Well, the
You didn't let me give me my example.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Back when Jesus was before Pontius Pilate, when he found no fault in Jesus, he presented Jesus to the people. And he says, who lives, who dies? Jesus or the criminal Barabbas?
Barabbas.
The crowd chose Barabbas.
Similar to
Now,
today.
whose fault was that? The personality Pontius Pilate, Barabbas, or the crowd?
It's the crowd. It wasn't Rome's fault.
That's correct. The crowd gets away. They get a pass on this stuff, but it is the crowd that is the problem.
Yeah, I mean, Pontius Pilate was nice enough to say, I find no guilt in this man of anything.
Correct.
You know, he probably looked at him as a kook, a nut, claiming that he's a king and he's dressed in rags. You know, and
Well, he wasn't dressed in rags. His robe was very expensive. You
No.
saw the
Talking about-
centurions.
talking about Jesus'
I'm talking about
clothing.
Jesus' robe. The centurions gambled for his robe at the cross. It was not a piece of tattered rag.
Oh.
Jesus was a carpenter. He was not poor. They chose to go around and live off the support of others through tithing to get the message.
And I
out.
heard Mary
But they
really,
weren't poor.
and I heard Mary really did not give birth in a manger. That's the reality of it.
Well, it wasn't a manger.
Well, the nativity scene that they make for Christmas, the ornaments.
Well,
You know.
yeah, because but they had to. There was no room at the inn.
Bethlehem.
It was crowded.
But so this is it. I mean, people are duped. They're misled. I guess they're. Well, the Republicans
Revelation 12:9. The whole world is deceived.
Republicans offer certain key points to the crowd, as you call it. They love to. They'll tell you what the problem is, and they'll tell you who to blame for it. And the crowd seems to love to be able to blame a particular group for all their problems. They like to blame. So
They like to blame the government.
so the blame
They've been
here
taught
is the government.
Yeah.
And
It's too big.
and liberals, or like this idiot, this redneck idiot calls them lib turds. That's Roger Williams. Oh, you know, they found me on the Left Action page. Roger Williams was banned from my group,
Now he's back again.
but on Left Action. But there's one thing that he can't do on Left Action. If he abuses me, I have tens of thousands, if not more, of progressive liberals that'll tear him apart. He can't pull that stuff on Left Action. But because it's all they hate conservatives. It's all about the left wing. So I just sit back and let the whole organization tear him apart if he gets out of hand. But because I haven't, he's being a good boy over there. But anyway, this is it. They love somebody to blame. They want to be able to blame government, liberals, gays, whatever, for their problems, and the blame is on the very party that they're voting for, the party of the rich. But the party of the rich doesn't tell them they're the party of the rich. They tell them they're the party of the job creators. Romney. Republicans love to say job killers, job creators. That's the only thing that comes out of their mouth most often. The job creators versus the job killers. Well, if the jobs are outsourced, they're not.
They're not lying.
They're not.
They are created.
They're
jobs.
created. They're not killed, but they're created. They're just not created in the United States.
Correct. Correct. So they're not lying there. They're telling the truth there.
Romney didn't personally outsource the jobs. He just profited from the outsourced jobs.
We don't know that.
But we don't know that for sure.
We don't know because in 99 to 2001, they were outsourcing. And according to the SEC papers that he signed, he was fully in charge at that time.
Of Bain?
CEO and 2 other offices he held. And he signed the SEC papers that had to be filled out every year. Okay? But then he said he retired retroactively. So it wouldn't come up during the campaign.
Another thing I can't understand is why Barack Obama...
Could you retire retroactively?
Now? Hell no.
Anytime.
No.
Supposing you were working for somebody
No.
and you said it's 2009, all right? You retire. But you tell them, whatever you fill out something. No, I retired in 2007. Retroactively. Can you do that?
No.
Well, of course not. But he did.
But he's special.
No kidding. That's what power grants you, doesn't it?
Now, I don't understand for the life of me why Barack Obama hired a former Monsanto executive as the head of, what is it, the FDA or USDA? What was it? What was the agency that he gave the
It
job
doesn't matter because he did that a lot. Look at all the guys came from Wall Street. Geithner, Rubin, Lawrence, etc. All of these guys.
Does this perhaps have to do with his obsession with bipartisanship? Perhaps?
Perhaps it had to do with the fact that they were the same geniuses that brought the financial system to its knees under Bill Clinton.
They should be
etc.
allowed. They should have been allowed to perish and go belly up and incarcerated and sent to prison.
And the banks socialized. Public bank.
There you go. But of course, in the end times, the right thing was not done.
Imagine a public bank issuing you a credit card for 4% APR. 4%. Still making a profit.
Well, 4% would be fair.
No kidding. Even though it is still usurish and against the Bible.
Now, could you imagine what kind of usury it is when they get the interest rates that they do get?
19%, 17, 18%, 21%, 23%.
That's like a fine jewelry store getting a fully cut diamond, 1 carat diamond from South Africa, from De Beers, all cut and polished, and paying, I don't know, $20 for it, and turning around and selling it for like $2,500. It's like total highway robbery. And you know what? I wouldn't doubt if that really does happen with the retail, the jewelry industry.
Buy low, sell high.
That popular show on True TV called Hardcore Porn, P-A-W-N, play on words. They're always chuckling behind the customer's back and laughing that they paid way below what the item was worth, and they turned around and sold it for a much higher price and bragged that they're going to make a great profit on this item because they stiffed the customers.
Do not rob from the poor just because he's poor.
Well,
That's from the Bible.
They instead of looking at the book value of the item that the customer brings in and giving him a fair amount of money for it, they often will say, well, what were you thinking, what were you looking for the item? How
What do you
much
think it's worth?
What do you think it's worth? How much money would you like for the item? Which is kind of a trick question.
Of course. Well, they get an idea where your level is.
Now, a lot of people are not angels either. They'll give you a ridiculously high price for a piece of junk. But many people are fooled, you know, and but this is buy low, sell high. This is one of the worst examples of
Capitalism.
You know, being able to screw people and just saying, well, you know, let the buyer beware.
Business, baby, business.
It's business. It's only business. You know, being corrupt, being dishonest. You know what? People really are bamboozled by all the capitalist propaganda. You know, anti-socialist comments and.